everyone. Welcome to the She's a 10 times 5 show. I'm Lori, and my friends Michelle, Randy, Marcia, and special guest hosts are mixing it up and joining me to do what girlfriends do best, chat from the heart. Whether it's celebrity stories or serious topics, we're talking about it and coming in hot. Join us as we bring you the aha moments of learning, reflection, inspiration, and of course, a whole heck of a lot of fun. Let's go. This episode is brought to you by...
Hi, my name is Kelly Whistler. I'm the founder of Have a Seat Yoga. I developed my program 6 years ago to target an audience that might have limited mobility issues and to be able to provide all the benefits that a traditional yoga program would provide on a mat. If you go to my website, Have a Seat Yoga, you'll see a complete list of all of the classes that are provided there. It's an interactive live class. My accompanying book, Have a Seat Yoga, Inspiration to Get Started, Stay Connected, and Keep Going. My book can be found on Amazon.
Okay, everyone, now it's time for our show. Hey, everyone, welcome to She's a 10 times 5. I've got my pal Michelle by my side today in Studio 50. What's
Hello,
up?
Lori.
Singing Michelle.
Singing.
Okay, recording days are the best days, and we've got a full slate, and I'm super excited about this guest because from an outsider standpoint, she took a significant pivot in her life. This is Trisha Perez Kennealy. She is a Harvard graduate, Harvard MBA graduate, investment banker turned Cordon Bleu graduate, chef, and now the owner of a Relais Chateaux in Lexington, Boston. But I'm hoping she can kind of show us that actually these things have tied very well to her.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I can't wait to just hear what she has to say because it is such a big pivot, but I'm sure there's a lot of commonality and let's ask her those questions.
Yeah. I think in terms of entrepreneurship and how she deals with people in the hospitality. And you know what? I hope we dive into some of the things that we've been talking about regularly on the podcast, which is how we're treated as customers and consumers and her struggles with that kind of world of things as well. So I think it's going to be a great episode.
Yep, same.
All right, here we go. But first...
We've got Randy Crawford with a hard yes or a hard no. Which will it be?
Well, I'm hoping it's both actually today. All right, Randy, take it away.
Hi guys, my name is Randy Crawford and I'm a life coach. My philosophy is simple. When we know better, we do better. No judgment. But with me, it's always a hard yes or a hard no. So today you're going to hear from this wonderful woman, Trisha Kennealy, who is going to talk about her MBA and doing finance and transitioning to running an inn. And what I love about this interview is that it's about the importance of people and one-on-one human connection. Now, I have been very against remote working from the beginning. I've always thought that it was strange that we don't come together at the water cooler and talk about our jobs or go out for happy hour or just meet people at the office. And I understand the need for a hybrid environment possibly, but we need to be able to walk in and relate to someone else. Look at what's on their desk or maybe look at what's on their wall and say, oh, have a conversation about what you notice around you, which you don't get when you work remotely and when everything is done, in your own little space and you're isolated. So I'm coming in with a very hard yes to this interview and just people to people connection. We all need it.
Welcome, Trisha. How are we today?
I'm great. How are you ladies? How you doing?
Really
Fantastic.
well. Yeah. I'm doing even better because if you live in California, you've been spoiled with the vitamin D and the sunshine and all those great things. And we've had a winter of all winters with regards to the rain. So we've had a span of sunny weather. And so I'm actually doing really well. Yeah.
I think that we might have swapped, you're in beautiful California. I'm in very beautiful, springy Massachusetts. But yesterday it was disgusting in like 30. So,
Ooh, yeah. I don't miss those days.
I don't either. I'm from upstate New York, but I've been in Tampa, Florida now for over 20 years, and I wouldn't trade it.
I'm originally from Puerto Rico. So as you can imagine, I moved to the States in 1982. I'm still getting used to the winter, which is
Yeah.
why I was in Puerto Rico just recently for 10 days. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your background because I read up on you and you have so many amazing articles written about your journey. And I think it seems to us as wow, she was brought up in Puerto Rico for part of her life, then moved to the States. And then you've got a high powered couple of degrees from Harvard. And then was doing the old IB investment baking play, which we know is it's a pressure cooker. And then it seems like you kind of pivoted in a really unorthodox way, but not so much as we kind of hear about your journey. So let's start from the girl from Puerto Rico that moves and all of that.
La chica boricua de Puerto Rico.
Ooh.
So I grew up in Puerto Rico, as you said. My father is originally from Puerto Rico, had grown up in the mainland in New York, and he had a business opportunity to go to Puerto Rico. And so we went when I was really young, and we stayed there until I was 12. And it was a fantastic place to grow up. I mean, what could be wrong with growing up on an island where it does rain, but most days are sunny and you can go to the beach whenever you want, and everyone is very friendly and social. It was kind of idyllic, to be honest. And then I moved to Lexington, Massachusetts, because my father had an opportunity to go to Harvard Business School. And I was 12. My sister had just turned 15. She was about to turn 16. So we came back and started middle school and high school, respectively. Really very fun time to move, right? When you're about to be in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
But it ended up being a really critical turning point in my life. I was very comfortable at my school in Puerto Rico. I was very shy, which people who know me now think is just the craziest thing. But it was during that year and that transition to making the adjustment to living back in the United States that I kind of realized that I control my destiny. I control my happiness, and I was going to do the things that made me happy. And if you wanted to be friends with me, that's great. Would cherish the friendship. But if you didn't like the things that I was doing and didn't want to be friends with me because of that, then it probably was a good idea that we weren't going to be friends anyway.
Yeah.
It also meant that I am often the first person, if we walk into a room and I notice somebody that I don't know or realize that somebody is new to a situation, I am the first person to go up to them and say, "Hey, I'm Trish. Welcome. What's your name? What are you doing here?" So I tend to be the welcome wagon wherever I go in whatever situation. So I guess it doesn't come as any surprise that those qualities lend very easily to a career in hospitality, where it is our job to anticipate what our guests need or want, sometimes before they even know it. And so I think inherently, I love getting to know people. I'm very curious. I want to know your story. I want to know what you're all about and what we might be able to do and accomplish together, as friends, as professional partners. That's kind of who I am in a nutshell. So yes, I went to Harvard twice. I was an investment banker, which was a crazy time. I was an investment banker from 1997 until the early 2000s. It was the birth of the internet, and some of the things. One of the first clients that I worked with actually developed the technology for DSL.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Right. So trying to explain to people that there was this technology that was going to make your ability to communicate using your computer and your phone faster. And now that's almost obsolete. Right. So it's pretty funny to have explained a technology that very rapidly became obsolete as we've leapfrogged. And then I had an opportunity. I had my first child when we were living in London. I had her here in Massachusetts. We were living in London, but I had come home. And the reason why that's important is she was born 3 weeks before 9/11.
Yeah.
And I was in Massachusetts, and my husband, Mike, who was my classmate at HBS, had flown back to London. I took him to Logan Airport on September 10th, the evening of September
Wow.
10th. And I woke up the next morning. It was the first night that I'd ever spent alone with my daughter. And everything kind of changed overnight in a matter of hours. And I was supposed to go back from maternity leave to be the chief of staff of our operations, of my bank's operations across 3 European actually 2 European offices and an office in Tel Aviv, but the economy imploded. And so, like so many people, it was another turning point. It was a turning point of, okay, I always thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was pretty sure, given my love and passion for food, that I wanted it to be related to food. And I decided, I was given the opportunity to accept a severance package because there really wasn't a job to go back to. And I took that package and I used it to pay for my tuition to go and study at Le Cordon Bleu in London. And the real motivation behind that was, I am passionate about food. It is what I use to express my love, my gratitude. But I also feel very strongly that food is such a plays a fundamental role, not just in terms of our nourishment, but it provides a medium, right? The studies show that children who eat with adults in their life, and I'm not passing judgment, whatever your family structure, but who routinely eat with adults in their life, perform much better academically.
Wow. Well, you still have time, Michelle.
Okay, I know it's not too late.
Who would have thought, right? But
Yeah.
the whole thing is that the act of using food to bring people together, you're nourishing them, but you're also providing a platform to communicate and touch base. And so, that's also the other idea behind hospitality. It's a way to bring people together, right? And the more that we can bring people together, I think the better off we are. I think that we all crave that human connection with other people, whether it be, a personal relationship, but I also think that it means so much professionally. It really makes me sad, being able to do things remotely, this is a great opportunity, but it doesn't substitute the importance of that human connection. And so I recognize that food and providing a space for people to be together, we're providing a really important service to people. So I went to Le Cordon Bleu and, took a step back and raised 3 kids. I have a daughter and 2 sons. I was the Uber volunteer. If you asked, I said yes. Was the president of the PTO, was involved in town meeting, which is our local form of town government, but was still very much cooking a lot for people, began sort of catering for people on the side, and was kind of looking here and there for a property in Lexington, where the birthplace of American liberty. And I found it so strange that we didn't have an inn, right? And so this property became available and we bought it. And I had to go through the rezoning process. These buildings were built in the 1800s, so they had to be completely gutted and brought up to the standards of a luxury hotel. And I opened a 22 guest room hotel with a 54-seat restaurant. And actually this coming weekend, we will be open 9 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. And what I love just in reading, and I'd love you to expand on it, because for me, I think all of us in our career, it's about the experience. And I know that that's something that's really important to you and really kind of a foundation of your business model, correct?
Yeah, I think that experiences are so important, right? And everyone, there's 2 sides. I think there's 2 answers to that question, right? Everyone is always, how do you make the leap from being this investment banking experience to being a hotelier and a restaurateur? I was in corporate finance. My responsibility was to lead a company and its leaders through important financial transitions, which oftentimes for my clients, this was the crowning glory of everything they'd done. This was their ability. They were going to get rewarded for what they had done. That's a very scary journey to go down, right? Like you're putting it all out there and you're hoping that the markets are going to welcome you, they're going to receive you, and you're going to get the financial reward that you've been looking for. In hospitality, again, like I have to make sure that you're taking care of. People come to hotels for so many different reasons. They come for the joyful ones, right? We get that. You got married, you're going on a baby moon, you are going on vacation with your family. But they also come for some stressful situations. Somebody's sick, somebody has died, right? Somebody's getting divorced, right? So you're seeing people across the spectrum. But I truly believe in my team's ability to make all of those experiences, to make it better, to make it memorable, to make it so exciting that you want to talk about how much fun you had, or we met you at a moment that was so sad, but we still made it okay for you. And we made it so okay for you that you want to come back. Yeah. Because you saw the light, because of the experience. You saw that it was going to be okay because we took care of you in that moment.
Yeah, I think one of the things, Trisha, that I really appreciate is you have a smaller venue. I think a lot of times when we travel, we go for the big luxurious hotels or the big name brands. And I think a lot of people miss out on the charm and exactly what you said is making them feel comfortable and welcomed in more of a personality type of hotel or inn. Would you not agree with that?
I completely agree with that. Obviously, I have the advantage. I have 22 guest rooms. So on a daily basis, I know, my team knows ahead of time who's coming. If it's a repeat guest, we might write down, hey, Lori, we know that you like champagne. We happen to know that you like this particular vintage. So we're going to make sure that it's ready to go. Right. We may, there's that level of granularity, but then we also get to know our guests. We get to know their families. I have guests that have been staying with us when since their grandchildren were born. Those grandchildren are now 8 or 9 years old and have grown up coming to sleep over at the inn with Nana and Papa when they come to visit, right? We have onesies that we give out to the inn babies, right? People whose parents have gotten married at the inn.
I want a onesie.
I love that. And that's the questions I have, like some of those little special touches that you do that set you apart.
So things like that. I mean, we kind of like to do sort of the unexpected in terms of, there's certain surprises in people's rooms that some people catch. Like there's personalized notes, or we're going to leave a special pillow. There's just little things that you sort of pick up. And I'm very, very lucky. I have had incredible women work for me since we started, because the other thing is that I feel that I have an opportunity to use my platform to promote the idea of women in hospitality. It's known as a business that's 24/7. We are open 24/7. That doesn't mean that I have to be there 24/7, right? I have to be accessible 24/7. But that's not always an easy concept when you are a young mom. And I'm very proud to say my general manager has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My director of sales has a 3.5-year-old and 4-month-old baby. And my chef is about to have her first child. So don't drink the water. If you come in the next few months, don't drink the water.
Yeah, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
Pregnancy seems to be contagious. But that was something that was really important to me. But these women also have the same passion for delivering that individualized service. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my rooms manager. Her children are in their 20s, but she's been in hospitality for years. I kid you not, that we probably have about 25 guests that have her on speed dial. Right?
Wow.
She knows kids' birthdays, their birthdays, when they're coming, when they're going, which room they want to be in, why they're coming. Oh, we're coming today because it's Henry's birthday. Oh, we're coming next week because, so-and-so is going to be in a play. And that is something that I support and applaud. It's not that I necessarily taught them. I think that they sort of came to me with that innate sense of service. And it's something that we try to look for when we interview people. I always look to see if people naturally smile, right? You need to smile within the first minute of my knowing you during the interview. And that sounds so, right? People might say that that's petty.
Well,
but
it sounds basic, but it's think about it.
It's the natural indicator of your sense of happiness in self, and happy people deliver good service.
Yeah. I tell this to my two boys. I have two college age kids, and I think you're absolutely right, especially when you're in a sector like hospitality. I think you make your decision on hiring within the first 6 to 10 seconds of meeting an individual, just by how their facial expressions, their body language and whatnot, and how important that is. And I think it's important that you mention that, because we probably do the same thing when we walk through the doors of an inn or a hotel, the first 6 to 10 seconds, how we feel about what we're walking into by the smile and the body language, right?
We do it with so many things in our lives. And that's why too, I try, one thing that you talked about, one thing that's really difficult in the hospitality industry is we deliver 5-star service, right? 5-star service comes with a price tag attached to it. And the reality is that a lot of people who work in hospitality may not necessarily have had that experience themselves. So it's really important that we try to replicate, as an employer, that we try to replicate how we treat them, that I try to give them opportunities to travel. We're part of something called Relais Chateaux, which is this incredible international hotel association. And between the hotels, we have a friends and family rate. And I really do try to encourage, that's part of our incentives. If somebody wins an employee of the quarter or something, that is often the reward, that we are going to send you to have this experience personally, because then it's easier for you to understand what it is that I'm talking about, why it's important that when the guest walks in the door, that you address them by name, that you say thank you, that you make sure that we don't leave them sitting there for 10 minutes waiting, right? When you've had the experience yourself of being so well taken care of, then it's easier for you to understand what it is that we are trying to do on a day-to-day basis with our guests that are coming to visit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So let's talk about customer service, and I want to get your take on this, because we kind of had a bitch session a week or so ago on one of our kind of what's happening episodes about it's kind of evaporated to some degree. And I don't know if it's the hangover from COVID, or it's just we've gotten in this cycle where we're very impersonal. But talk about that, because you're in an industry where exactly what you said is customer service is everything, because you want repeat business, you want word of mouth. But I honestly feel like we're not doing a great job of that societally.
I agree with you, but I think that is because we are spending a lot of time talking about what makes us different in terms of talking about what we have in common, right? You can't help but turn on the news and everyone's like, well, he's there and she's here. But the bottom line is that there's so much more that we have in common. I do think that it's a pandemic hangover. I think anyone who is introverted, the pandemic gave them cover, right? Because it became acceptable to hunker down in your house and only Zoom with people. Oh, we're just going to have cocktails over Zoom. Well, that was fun when I didn't have the opportunity to see you in person. But the bottom line is we need to interact with one another. And we're seeing it at all levels, right? In terms of civility. the old mom, everything you needed to learn in kindergarten, everything you need to know you learn in kindergarten. There's actually some validity to that. I have a dear friend who's a kindergarten teacher, and she said the last 2 years have been so incredibly difficult because she's getting these children and they don't know how to interact with other children because they've had so little interaction, right? But teachers that I know at every step of the way are seeing that all the way through college. Translate that into the workplace. We have people that are in their 20s that have never stepped into an office. They've been working because they graduated in 2020. They have never stepped into an office, right? There are actually some really fundamental interpersonal skills that you learn by working with other people in close proximity in an office. And so I think that the problem is that we are not giving people enough forums to practice being polite and gracious and social and how to interact with one another. So I completely agree. Like I was in JFK airport a few weeks ago, and there had been tornado warnings the night before in JFK. I was flying back to the East Coast from Las Vegas. I hadn't seen this many people in an airport in years. And when I was an investment banker, I commuted from Boston to California. So I know my way around an airport very easily. So many people. I could not believe the rudeness, like people complete disregard of personal space, not waiting on lines, getting agitated for no, particular reason. We actually need to go back to interacting with one another. We need to spend time with one another, and we need to call people out if they're being rude, if they're being disrespectful, if they're not delivering the service that you've paid for. It is okay to tell them. You can do it politely. But it is okay to say, you know what? I'm actually paying a bit of money to be here to enjoy this experience, and I'm not getting what I paid for, right? You don't need to lace it with an F-bomb or other expletives. But the problem is I think that we're also afraid to hold ourselves accountable and ask for what we deserve, what we're paying for.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because I think part of the hidden message in someone like you to other women, and especially as we get to be second chapter women, is this fear of making a dramatic change. And while you've seemed to connect the dots, someone on the outside looking in optically will say, wow, she went from Harvard MBA, investment banker, working with startups, taking them public, whatever that involves, and now she's working with people that come in with their little suitcases. Was that, did you have a lot of fear with doing that? Or, walk us through that, because I think a lot of women have passions that they want to explore and dive into, but they just can't seem to push the go button.
I think as I have become 10 times 5,
Woo!
I don't think I ever appreciated that I was fearless, but I think that I was very lucky to have parents who taught me to believe that I could do anything that I set my mind to. And so I think I sort of felt that everything before had been preparation. Right? It wasn't that I planned it that way, but I think I'm very big on drawing lessons from the different things that I've done. And I will tell people, right? I will tell, as I have a lot of friends, my youngest is a junior in high school, as we're approaching, a lot of my friends are approaching that empty nest. I started preparing for being an empty nester when my oldest was graduating from college, was a freshman in high school. We are so conditioned to think that our child rearing years are like the high point or the crescendo or the peak. They're absolutely amazing, but they're only one of the chapters. And we are so lucky to live in a time and place. Most of us, God willing, could have another 50 years. And when we look back on it, that active child rearing phase will have been 20, right? And I'm not demeaning that. It's amazing. But what I'm saying, like, you just got to do it. And sometimes you have to believe in yourself and I have my roommate's daughter, my roommate from college, her 14-year-old daughter and I are very close. And I was telling her, you need to learn to have a love affair with yourself before you get involved with anybody else. Pretty heady topic for a 14-year-old. But the point that I was trying to make to her is you got to be comfortable with you. Right. And I think if you're comfortable with you, then go for it. Try it. So what if you fall flat on your face? And I tell my team, the women who work for me, if we do not fall on our face, it means that we are not taking enough risk. Right? I don't want us to fall on our face repeatedly, and I want us to be able to recover. But if we don't make mistakes, then we are not trying hard enough and we are not putting it all out there on the line. Not every day is going to be perfect. Not everything that I try is going to be a success. But if I am confident and I put in the work to make it happen, more often than not, it works out.
What say you, Michelle? So Michelle,
No, I love it. I mean,
I know,
you learn the most through failure. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. And I think that's a message that whether you're in your 50s, your 40s, your 30s, your 20s, or those teens, I mean, they need to know that, because everybody is so quick. We live in the highlight reel world. Everybody's showing how great they are. But at the end of the day, it's really the mistakes and the failures that are going to take us next level.
yeah.
Oh, completely. And this young woman that I'm talking about aspires, both of her parents are actors and writers. And I said to her, you aspire to be in a profession where you are going to be told no over and over and over again. And in order to be able to sustain that, you have to be able, in order to withstand that, you have to be able to sustain that yourself. Right? You have to be able to find that source of strength from within you. And that's one thing that I worry about, that, in trying to, we sort of made it, this generation, like my children's generation, think that the objective is to have zero risk. When has the United States ever been about zero risk? Right?
Well, in fairness, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations about this as of late. I think somewhere along the line, our generation, especially of women, has snowplowed or wiped away the risk.
Yes.
I think that we've created our own worst enemies with regards to, we take on so much for them, and we eliminate the pain of going through life at times. So that's my philosophy.
Yeah, it's gotten crazy.
But I think I think that there's so much validity to that. Lori, I agree, because the thing is that life is not perfect. It's not.
No.
Right?
Why did we do that? What happened was that we were just overcompensating for our own youth. We wanted to make everything picture perfect for, our children to get, I mean, it's crazy.
It was interesting when my kids were younger. I think that maybe it has to do, I mean, you grew up in New York, right? So you understand that in the winter, it's not so easy to play outside, whatever.
Right.
In Puerto Rico, I grew up playing outside in our neighborhood. It was like you went out at like 10 in the morning and you came back when the sun came down. Do you know how few kids do that in the United States? I used to cringe when I would try to organize some play dates for my kids. And I would talk to some parents and they'd be like, oh, we can do that 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Yes, we've overscheduled so much. It is like our parents would be like, go outside, come back, it's getting
or not
dark.
even that. We would just go and ring someone's doorbell. Can Michelle come out to play?
Yeah.
I mean,
can you imagine doing that now? We would have a heart attack.
Yeah.
But
What are you doing here?
but that's what you were talking about people's inability, they've lost that civility, that customer service. those are actually life skills that were really important. That life skill of introducing yourself, putting yourself out there, trying to figure out, what are we going to play today? Right? The thing is that we think that we have to organize everything for them. They actually have to figure it out. And I think that that's why so many of these kids are so confused about what they're supposed to do, because they've never had to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
They've been told, you know, on Monday, you're going to have piano. On Tuesday, you're going to go swim. On Wednesday, you're going to have Russian math. On Thursday, you're going to solve world peace. And maybe on Friday, you're going to rest. And they're 5.
We're all guilty of it.
Well,
I'm totally guilty. I'm laughing because my daughter yesterday in the car said, like, "Oh my gosh, mom, like my schedule's crazy." I was like, "I'm so sorry."
How old is she?
She's 11. And it was like Monday's math and Tuesday is swimming and Wednesday's choir. And it's like
Give her
all
a
these things.
breather. Give her a breather and let her go figure it. Give her one day to be like, you know what? It's your day. Figure it out.
yeah.
Figure it out.
Well, we've been that house that everyone kind of has come to. I don't know why that is. And I always said to my husband, I go, we don't have a house. We need a home, you know, so it's going to be a home. And if we
Right.
scratch the floors, if we get dings and scuffs along the way, so be it. And I do see that in my older kids, because I think they're very socially savvy that way, and they're very adaptive. So I think your point is very valid, that the more they get exposed to spontaneous social situations, I think it helps them navigate later as they grow.
And I would say too, to people that are listening, aspire to be the house that the kids want to come to, but recognize that it's actually, the way you do it is by being welcoming. Of course, you have some fun snacks, right? It doesn't need to be, they don't need anything fancy. But I have recognized that for my 3 kids, we often are the house where kids want to come. And look, if I were to turn this computer, I have a pile of mail to the right, I have a pile of mail to the left. I am sitting in my house doing this interview. I have never been somebody that has to have like the Martha Stewart look in the house if I invite you over. I'll never forget, we moved into the house October 18th of 2003. And the next weekend, I had a Halloween party for 50 people. There were all these toddlers, because that's the age Gabriella was. I walked upstairs, and my husband's youngest cousins, who were like 7 or 8 at the time, were jumping on my bed, right? And someone's like, "Are you in?" And the rest of his cousins were like, "I can't believe, like, the house is brand new." I'm like, just like you said, this house was meant to be a home. There's meant to be scuff marks. This house is meant to be used and celebrated. And, you know, since that moment, we have had a Halloween party every year since then. It happens to be our anniversary, but it's always been like, come one, come all, the more, the merrier, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's welcome. You want to bring your friend? You bring them too. Totally fine.
That's great.
And then
Okay.
I open it in. Just keep coming, people, all of you.
Trisha, I got a question about cell phone usage and what your rules are, because I know experience service is big. I was just, when you were talking about the airport, it reminded me a couple of weeks ago, she was supposed to be helping me, and she was just on her phone, and I could see that she was watching inappropriate TikToks, and I was like laughing to myself. I was like, she just has that right out. No care in the world. So obviously, I'm just curious what your rules are and kind of how you have it set with cell phones.
When you're on shift, your cell phone is not visible.
Yes.
And, you know, what's hard though, is that because we have 3 buildings, my managers carry a cell phone that is the house phone. And sometimes I worry how people will perceive that, but I know that they're using it because it's where we forward the lines to. But the cell phone usage, it is so pervasive in our lives. It's so interesting to see the difference. My 21-year-olds, those kids did not really have the cell phones until they were in 7th and 8th grade. And I do see a difference between her and her brothers, who are 2.5 and 4.5 years younger than she is, right? It's really interesting to see. But I also find like even the adults get sucked into it. You know, we have this beautiful dining room, and I do it too, right? We take pictures,
Mhm.
food comes. But I try to model with my staff. I also try to model with my own kids at home. You know, my husband is draconian, no cell phones at the dinner table, right?
Good. Yeah.
That's great.
And honestly, I would prefer, and I have done it. There have been times when I've gotten so fed up with the kids and their friends. And, you know, thankfully the kids are in our house enough that I'll be like, take every one of those phones and put them over there in that basket. I don't want to see, like, I do not want to see you sitting on the couch texting each other when you're sitting 2 or 3 feet away from each other.
I always laugh at the the people that post something on social media and then they're commenting on their post, and because you're friends with them, that they're sitting right next to each other.
Oh, completely.
It's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing to me. It's like, wait, you guys are on the sofa together. Why aren't you just talking? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting to see how reluctant people are to pick up a phone and have a conversation with one another. But those communication skills are so essential. And I do think that that's sort of contributed to a lot of what you had asked about
100%.
customer service, right? There's so many people, and this is also something that we grapple with. We're a luxury property. I believe that you should be greeted at the door and welcomed personally.
Mhm.
But now there's some people who they just want to be able to use their mobile key and go straight to their room and not interact with the staff, right? I'm probably not the property you want to visit if that's the experience that you're looking for. But, you know, that makes me sad, right? That people would forego that human interaction to just go straight to their room.
Okay, Trisha. So if you're going to leave our listeners with, this is the byline of your inn, what's that message? What's that one or two? Like if you walk through our doors, this is the sledgehammer message that you're going to get out of this experience.
Arrive as a guest, leave as a friend.
Oh,
Love that.
that's great. I'm on my way.
Me too.
Please. Hey, you know that the Army Navy game is being played at Gillette next year.
Oh, you're right. I know.
We're
Okay.
we're very, very excited. Massachusetts is so excited to be able to host. But hey, we're 40-minute drive from Gillette, not even. I'm an expert tailgater. Happy to host.
Awesome. I have a
Maybe
feeling
maybe we'll get our mutual friends to come.
I would love that. Okay, where can people find you and information about your beautiful inn?
So the inn is called the Inn at Hastings Park. Our inn at hastingspark.com. If you're interested in following me on social, I do a bunch of different instructional videos. I comment, as you can tell, I have some opinions. So Trisha Perez Kennealy is my Instagram, and I'm on TikTok. I'm very passionate about teaching people how to cook and all about the different aspects of hospitality. So that my own channels sort of focus on that. But that's where you can find me. And people should definitely, if you heard this and you come to the inn, let us know that this is why you're coming. I love when people tell us why they're there, so that I can come and talk to them and find out their story and how we can make their stay even more special.
Thank you for that. And I will tell you that
Great.
you do have a lot of good content on your personal social media.
Thank you.
I got a lot of value out of that knife sharpening video you
good.
did. Yes. Yes,
Well,
I
if
did.
the boys are at the phase that they're living in apartments at school, there's also some really, straightforward, simple cooking tips, because I think everyone should be able to cook a few basic things for themselves, at least.
Agreed.
Lori, that's you and I.
Yeah.
We struggle with basic cooking.
We were in Puerto Rico with a small group. I had 19 of us in Puerto Rico. The kids, my son who's a senior, we brought a bunch of his friends, and we were in a very small resort called Copa Marina on the southern side of the island. And I was walking through this open air restaurant, And this young woman she's looking at me as if she knows me. And I'm looking back at her and I'm like, and I said, hi. And she said, are you on TikTok? And I said, she's like, are you the chef and the ballroom dancer in? And I said, yes. She's like, are you Trisha Perez Kennealy? And I said, yes, I am. Young woman, student at Fordham. She follows me on TikTok. My kids were flabbergasted. We were laughing.
You were
I was so
cool.
touched. I was so
Yeah, you
touched.
got cool points for that.
You definitely got cool points.
And I think that she was, it was this really sweet moment. And I said, totally, like, she said, I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm like, no, totally fine, totally sweet. Talked to her friends. They were staying, the week at the resort too. So it was just one of those very funny moments. And one of the young woman like was talking to my children. She said, I don't think that your mom realizes that she actually has a following amongst people like our age.
Yeah.
So there you
That's
go.
awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone's welcome in my house.
Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I learned more about you and about what you're doing, and keep doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you like to stay in touch with your guests. So the best thing to do is come and visit.
All right, Lori, road trip.
Anytime.
Right? Yes.
Anytime.
We're going to take our show on the road one of these days.
Oh, that would be great, right?
Wouldn't that be fun? We'll be like Oprah and Gail.
They were just in Jordan. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would who would the third person be that's traveling with them? Who could I be?
Let's see. Let's come up with something good.
I'm like,
What do you think, Lori?
think about that. But when you guys come to the inn, we'll figure out who I'm going to be, and then we can.
Yeah.
go.
We'll have a
Okay.
nice dinner.
All right. Thank you so much, Trisha. And thank you, listeners.
This week's kindness takeaway is to do some spring cleaning. Get into that closet and donate some clothes that you no longer use.
Follow us on Instagram at She's a 10 times 5. You can click on the link in our bio to listen to all of our previous episodes, as well as check out our live video interviews over our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, pretty much wherever else you decide to listen to your favorite podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe.